part 2 of your podcast on section 13.1 in the AP Stats book, looking at 2 sample tests. And when I left off the last podcast, I left you to try and work this 2 sample test out on the calculator. So let's go through that right now. I've already put the data in, so you should pause and punch the data in if you haven't already. Things to notice are that I've got the first one in L1 and L2. They're different sizes, so there's no way that I could do a matched pairs test here. When I go to my list, I'm going to hit Stat and a left arrow. And right here, I have a 2 sample t-test. And I know it's a t-test because I didn't have any sigmas. And I'm going to get the standard deviations from the lists. So if I hit the number 4 here, I'm going to click From Data. I've got lists L1, L2, frequencies 1 and 1. Now, on this level, from step 1 of the problem, my alternative hypothesis was that mu1 is greater than mu2. So that's what I'm going to use on the calculator. And I'm not going to pool my data. We're not even going to talk about it. So there's one less thing to worry about. And let's draw first. And notice I get a t-statistic of 1.6037 and a p-value of 0.0644. So if I look at this image that's in the book compared to the image I have in the calculator, you can see I'm getting the same thing. And they talk about the table, which you should be familiar with. We're going to use degrees of freedom 9 because that is the smaller of the two. And you can see if I'm using the table that the t-statistic 1.6037 would be right in between here. So I would just use the higher tail area. And I could estimate, I know it's going to be between here, but I'm not sure. The nice thing about the calculator is it gives you the exact p-value. And if you look at this interpretation, it tells you that there's not enough evidence here to reject the null hypothesis at either the 5% or the 1% levels. And that's consistent with what I see here. I know this t-statistic is above the 0.05 level. So I know it's not enough evidence to reject the null hypothesis. Now, by the same token, you should be able to make a 2 sample t-interval. And what they show here is that because the mu, 0, is captured inside the interval, I cannot reject the null hypothesis. Remember what we said. The center of this is going to be the average difference that I get, and the width of the confidence interval is dictated by the sample sizes. And if this interval captures the mu, then I don't have evidence to reject the null hypothesis. So let's walk through making that 2 sample t-interval. Stat, 1 left arrow to tests. The 2 sample t-interval is 0 on your list. And when I hit that, all my information is already in. Now notice in the book they did a 90%. So that's what we'll do. 90, enter, and calculate. And notice this result from the calculator is just a little smaller, and I'm going to say a little more accurate than the one in the book. And I think that's because of truncation errors. The calculator is going to use more decimal places than the table or the book. So there you have it. 2 sample hypothesis test, 2 sample confidence interval with t procedures. And we'll practice some more in class tomorrow.